Qualities of a good boss now, and a survey of the Australian companies that have the best record as employers. We asked Australians what they thought made a good boss.
I think in my case somebody who leaves me alone to do the job but is there to be supportive when I need them.
There's a lot of people who perhaps don't know exactly how to get the best out of the people who work for them.
I think a good boss would be someone who listens to their staff and actually understands people.
Everyone's human, so everyone makes mistakes, so yeah.
A good boss is someone who gives you a really long extra lunch hour.
What do you think makes a good boss?
Me.
And with more on that, here's our finance editor, Ross Greenwood. G'day, Ross.
Yes, good morning to you, Steve. And it's fascinating. A new survey which has just come out from Human Synergistics says that 75% of bosses basically tell their employees to sink or swim. In other words, make it or don't. The other point as well is that 71% of employees say that their managers don't help them to plan to get their work done at a high level. Well, just talking about this, Helen Trinker, who is the editor of Boss magazine, which is part of the Financial Review, joins us this morning. And you did a survey of the best employers, and also with us, the man who won that, Andrew Hume, from the company SalesForce, which was said to be by you the best employer in Australia. So, Helen, really simple. What makes a good boss?
I think what makes a good boss is a boss who's caring, compassionate, and sort of understands their staff. I think that guy had it right there when he said, if we want people to listen to us. And I think that seems to be one of the biggest problems from the research that Human Synergistics have done, that basically they, it's not so much aggressive or bullying bosses. Yeah, there are those. It seems to be the bosses that are so short-sighted, they sort of can't see the people in front of them and can't remember to say thank you and motivate them. And
yeah, now they're just having a look at some of the best employers you came up with. SalesForce, Bain International, Cisco Systems and Flight Centre there. What were the qualities that they all shared? Because they're all quite different businesses as well.
They are indeed, and in fact this research is done by Hewitt Associates for us, or we're partners with them. One of the things that they really seem to share is they seem to be able to engage the people, and it's more than just employees liking them. It's a real sense of commitment to the company and engagement with their approach. And of course the man who runs SalesForce, our guest actual boss, Kevin Panozza, is one of these incredibly engaging people, and part of it is obviously about having real leadership. You don't have to be charismatic, but you have to have character.
Well, let's go to Andrew Hume now from the company that's said to be the best boss in Australia. It's for SalesForce. Now, Andrew, you know, working for a company that's been said, this is pretty big to live up with, because of course if anything goes wrong inside there, everybody's going to say, well, you're not so good as you thought.
Yeah, well, true, but you know, the key thing for us is ensuring that people enjoy coming to work. That's what it's all about. We've got, 2,500 people working on the telephone, knocking on doors, selling things, and that's tough work. People don't typically call in to say, thanks, you're doing something terrific for us. They're calling in to complain about something, and that makes it, you know, that's hard work. So it's really important to create an environment that people are engaged in, a place where they love, where they love turning up to come to work.
But surely one of the things, Andrew,
is
one of the things there, Andrew, surely is that from time to time bosses have to make hard decisions. You know, somebody doesn't fit into the team, somebody's got to go. You've got 2,500 people. Somebody actually makes mistakes. How do you actually deal with that when you're trying to be a good boss?
Yeah, well, it all comes down to three things: listening, communicating, and empowering. People like to be listened to for a start. I mean, that delivers a real sense of fulfilment, that you're contributing to the world around you, to your environment. And communicating, people don't like to be left in the dark. You've got to share the information at all levels throughout the organisation, at an ad hoc basis, day to day, and formally on a more regular basis. So, you know, if you've got good news or bad news, regardless, it should be shared.
Well, Helen, just having a look here, we can see some of the regular complaints about bosses, and some of those were about the communication matters. You know, don't show how to improve performance, don't help how to get to high-level work done, don't notice when good work is done. When your surveys, as you go through it, do you generally find that Australian bosses are, on the whole, good bosses or bad bosses?
Look, I think the problem is that we have identified a number of good bosses, but they are small numbers still. I don't think we've got huge numbers of really poor bosses, but we've got a whole, well, we haven't got huge numbers of aggressive bullying bosses, but I think we have a lot of people out there, and we're all bosses at some stage.
Good stuff.
Who simply don't do enough. And I think it's interesting, that point you raise about the fact that what happens when you've got a problem. You know, one of the aspects that came out of the Human Synergistics survey is that a lot of people, about 50% of people, complain that their bosses don't take action against other workers who aren't working well enough. So it's not enough, I actually don't think, just to communicate and have fun in the office. You do have to have that sort of amount of rigour so that you do something about poor performance.
Excellent, Helen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Helen, and also to Andrew Hume as well from Salesforce. Now we've got our Money Minute, and this morning it's oil price.